Sounds good.
All right.
Yep.
All right, we're gonna make this work. All right. In 5.
On today's show, we're talking about J-Lo making the big bucks at the box office. On top of that, MoviePass is gone for good. And then finally, we had a big win for Jojo Rabbit at TIFF 2019. Hello and welcome to this brand new edition of Collider Movie Talk at 9 a.m. Pacific. We have a great show for you today, and we're going to have a whole bunch of panel discussions with some wonderful guests that might be John Rocha and Scott Mantz. But first, we're introducing a brand new segment of the show. We're doing a news rundown. First thing, we're calling it The Call Sheet. Here we go. As expected, It Chapter 2 took the number one spot at the box office with a 55% drop and another $40.7 million. But the big story here is Hustlers. Hustlers overperformed, and it is now the highest opening weekend for STX. The movie made a stellar $33.2 million, which tops the last movie that held that record for STX, Bad Moms in 2016 with $23.8 million. Big difference there. Going down the lineup now. Next up, we had Angel Has Fallen, which fell 26.5%, made another $4 million. After that, Good Boys came in at number 4 with 22.3%, drop at another $4.3 million. And then finally, The Lion King lost a mere 17.8% at the box office, making another $3.6 million. And no, I didn't forget about The Goldfinch. The Goldfinch didn't come close to cracking the top 5. That one only made $2.6 million, which was good enough for 8th place. Not a great start on that one. We're going to have a full discussion on it later in the show. Story number 2, MoviePass officially shut down on September 14th. This news probably won't come as a surprise if you've been following the company's news cycle over the last 2 years, which included everything from price hikes, system shutdowns, alterations to the business model, layoffs, and even MoviePass changing user passwords without their knowledge. On top of that, we've got a recent TechCrunch report that claims the company exposed tens of thousands of customer card numbers and personal credit cards because a critical server was not protected with a password. Apparently, the MoviePass parent company, Helios and Matheson Analytics, is still trying to find financing to fund the operation, but they also stated there can be no assurance that any such financing will be obtained or available on terms acceptable to the committee. So that might be it for good for MoviePass. Next up, Haley Atwell update. So news first hit that Atwell was joining the Mission Impossible franchise last week, but we didn't really know the details. And now she took to social media to explain it a little bit, basically confirming that she is part of the next 2 Mission Impossible movies. She took to Instagram to express her enthusiasm, confirming she'll be in both Mission Impossible 7 and 8. And she also described her role as the female lead. What could this mean for Rebecca Ferguson's character? We're going to have to wait and see because plot details are being kept under wraps. Christopher McQuarrie is returning for both Mission Impossible 7 and 8, which are going to be shot back to back, and filming is expected to begin next year. So 2 more Mission Impossible movies to look forward to. And here is something that I'm really looking forward to. Nickelodeon is gearing up for the return of the Midnight Society with an all-new Are You Afraid of the Dark 3-part limited series event. Part 1 is going to debut on Friday, October 11th at 7 p.m. Part 2 and 3 will follow on the 18th and 25th of October. If you're looking for a taste of what this reboot has to offer, you can go on over to Collider.com, which has the latest trailer for the miniseries. Next up, it is on to some Toronto International Film Festival 2019 coverage because they announced the awards, and Taika Waititi's Jojo Rabbit won the coveted People's Choice Awards. 9 of the last 10 winners of this award have gone on to score at least a Best Picture nomination. And last year's winner of this award, Green Book, obviously became the Best Picture winner. The runner-up for this prize was Noah Baumbach's Netflix drama Marriage Story starring Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. And then third place went to Bong Joon-ho's Parasite. All right, we got a lot to dig into today, but before we get to our panel discussions, we've got a little something to share from some Goldfinch coverage at TIFF. We had a conversation with Sarah Paulson and Oaks Fegley. Check it out. One of the things that I love most about this story is that the Goldfinch, the painting, isn't just a famous painting. It's something with real history and meaning, and it fills a void in his life. So what is the Goldfinch in your life? Do you have any, personal thing, that thing you would grab in a fire, something like that means the world to you?
I mean, it's not like an object, but my dog.
I'm going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
Only mine's a photograph of my dead dog, but still. I hate to be a big downer, but I'm glad that we have the same. Yeah. What kind
Definitely
of
my
is your
dog. He's a Shih Tzu poodle.
You can't say Shih Tzu on television. I'm just kidding.
You could say a lot more
You
than
could say a lot
that
more
on this
than that.
channel.
Shih Tzu poodle.
Shih Tzu poodle. And he's awesome. He doesn't actually look that much like a Shih Tzu poodle, but he
What's his
has
name?
so much character. His name is Mochi.
Oh yeah, Mochi.
And I don't know. He's just the one thing that I go to when I'm sad or when I'm feeling lost or down or anything like that. Like, I could just sit there and pet Mochi.
Yeah, you sure can.
It helps me.
I can't do that anymore, Oaks, because my dog's dead. But I'm glad.
You need to fill that void in your life. Get yourself a puppy.
Well, life is life. Having a dog is a big
crazy, I know.
responsibility.
Dog
We should go
shopping.
dog shopping, except for we can't shop it. We've got to rescue.
Hey guys, Riley here, and let me tell you about Rule of Two. You looking for a Star Wars fix? Well, Rule of Two is that show. It drops in on Collider Video's main YouTube channel, as well as on Podcast One's Jedi Council feed. So go over there, subscribe, share it with your friends. It's hosted by myself and Mark Fernandez. We talk everything in the Star Wars universe with a lot of deep dives and a lot of conversations that go all in. You know what to do. Subscribe, join us there, and rise.
All right, it's time to say hello to my panelists. It's Rocha and Mantz. We're talking about the box office. This was an interesting weekend at the box office. Just as a little refresher here, Hustlers made $33.2 million on a $10,225 per theater average. To compare, Goldfinch opened up with $2.6 million on a $1,039 per theater. I can't believe it. So first, I'm just going to ask you guys, what happened here? What worked super well for Hustlers that didn't work well for the Goldfinch?
Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah,
first
you
of
have to say
all,
that,
it
yeah.
got great reviews. The last I checked on Rotten Tomatoes, Hustlers was at 87%. And listen, Jennifer Lopez, she hasn't really made a really, really, really great movie since Out of Sight.
Yeah.
That came out 21 years ago. And she's had a lot of, there have been some movies that did well, like Monster in Law, like Made in Manhattan. But I think, for people to see that Jennifer Lopez is really just embracing who she is, plus really giving a great performance. A lot of people are saying that it's Oscar worthy, and I think it absolutely is. But I think ultimately here, social media, the word of mouth was very, very strong. It went viral. Everyone went to see it. John.
Yeah, I got to say that I got to agree. The critics were so strong for this movie. Some people, I saw one person call it like a female Goodfellas movie. That's a good, strong
Absolutely.
compliment that makes you understand what movie you're walking into. Because I think at the STX, the head guy there, he said people tried to dismiss this as just a stripper movie, but it's much more than that. And that's what the audience response has been coming out of critics' response as well. Also, I think you bring up a great point, not because the J-Lo story is very interesting. This is a woman who came out onto the street, she's in living color as a fly girl. Out of Sight, Soderbergh gets a great performance from her, but you're right, we haven't reached those heights since Out of Sight in terms of respect from the critics, respect from the public for her acting ability overall. Here's a film that takes advantage of it. Plus, it's an underdog story, both for her and for the story of these strippers getting one over on Wall Street, the public anger towards the people with money and the rich, that's got to be factored in. And yes, okay, you throw it in. These are beautiful women stripping as well. You can't deny that as part of the equation. It's all combining. And what a shock, a diverse cast brings out people to come see this. Constance Wu, other actresses involved in this. It shocked me. I didn't think it was going to do 32. So the fact that it did speaks volumes about their promotional campaign.
I think one of my
great.
favorite qualities about the movie is that Lorene Scafaria, the director, she doesn't ogle her cast here. In fact, she reveres them. Jennifer Lopez has one particularly impressive scene at the very beginning of the movie, but you're not, or at least I wasn't sitting there like drooling for any reason. You're looking at her and you're revering her. her for her athleticism.
Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like that kind of respect is what put this on another level. And it's also, I think the TIFF launch was one of the smartest things that they could have done. Because you're right. I think many went in, and it's fair when you have a trailer and you have a log line that might sound like this one does, where you make certain assumptions about a movie. The second you use a festival like TIFF as a launching pad, that could be a game changer. And it just so happens that they had an excellent movie. It got all that buzz out of TIFF and propelled them into an epic weekend.
Yeah, it could work great in the case of Hustlers, but not in another movie we're going to talk about. But listen, I mean, on top of everything that both of you just said, I mean, it's based on a true story.
Right.
And Jennifer Lopez is a really good actor. I mean, she should have been nominated for Selena, which was her breakthrough role, really put her on the map as an actress in a feature film. And then Out of Sight came a couple years later. But I think that she is looking at a supporting actress
You
nomination.
really do. So
yeah, I do.
I walked out of this movie thinking I think every single one of them in this ensemble is truly exceptional.
Yeah.
And I thought Jennifer Lopez is so good. I didn't, because it's like that time of year. You know how it is now when we see so many performances.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it was because I had just seen Marriage Story before this. And I walked out of that being like, Adam Driver, you're in. Scarlett Johansson, you're probably in.
Oh.
And with Jennifer Lopez, I'm like, that was a great performance. Not quite convinced, but I will say that the big box office, I think, is something that could tip the scale, especially if Hustlers holds strong now through October.
Well, like going into this coming weekend, you know, you got Ad Astra, you got Downton Abbey, you got Rambo Last Blood. And I think that because the word of mouth is already so strong for Hustlers, I think it's going to have a very strong hold, just like holding on to that poll, Johnny.
And speaking of which, I don't think we should just dismiss this as a Jennifer. Laurence Scafari has done a nice, from what I'm reading, has done an incredible job with this film and everyone's responses to it. I went to see The Meddler over there at the NoHo years ago because I liked that cast with Susan Sarandon getting involved in this whole situation, back and forth about the mom getting involved with her daughter's love lives. And I was like, oh, this is a good independent film. This is a good independent film director, and getting a larger platform to showcase her work. A lot of what you see in the film has to be attributed to the director. A lot of the performances have to be attributed to the director. So as great as Lopez is, and as great as Constance Wu is and other people in the cast, Laurence Scafari, you have to come back to her as well.
Absolutely.
Right?
All right. You teased it before, man. So we got to talk a little bit about the Goldfinch, because the Goldfinch had the exact opposite thing happen at TIFF. So I told some of you guys I had started reading the audiobook, but we're listening to the audiobook before I went to Toronto, because I wanted to, get up to speed. I was doing some interviews. I wanted to be knowledgeable about it. Got through about a quarter of it, went and saw this movie. And I think within a couple of minutes of it starting, I'm like, like something's not quite clicking. And then sure enough, it never really took off. I did go back to the audiobook just recently, though, and I'm still loving the book, but the movie, it's just, they have so many great elements in it and they don't come together whatsoever.
First of all, it really is looking at Toronto, looking at that weekend, at that Saturday and Sunday where you had Hustlers premiere on Saturday, and look what happened at that box office, overperformed. And then you have Goldfinch premiering the very next night, and it also junketed that weekend too. And not only did it underperform, it crashed and burned.
Yeah.
It went up in flames. I mean, I think I read that out of like wide releases from studios, it's the 6th worst opening for a wide release of all time. So what happened here? Well, I did not read the book. I tend to sort of stay away from the source material because I think a movie should stand on its own. I don't want to compare this to that. I don't want to compare it to the book. I don't want to compare it to a TV series. I don't want to compare it to a comic. I just want to see a movie and enjoy the film. I didn't think the movie was terrible. Wasn't great. It was too long. But when you have like people like Ansel Elgort and Nicole Kidman, I felt like the movie should have done better just based on those names alone. But I think to take the title from another film that premiered in Toronto, I think critics really had their knives out.
Ew.
Knives out, pun there, pal, for The Goldfinch, and it's not a great movie. It's too long. It falls apart, or at least it goes off the rails towards the end. It feels like it's going to end a few times. And because I guess the book is a Pulitzer Prize winner, it just didn't measure up. And it was just one of those movies, everybody just pounced on it, and it just fell apart.
I look at the psychology of this sometimes with critics and the reviews of some of movies like this. They come out, some of those reviews can be so angry and vitriolic, and they're just like so upset that this film didn't do it for them. They wanted it to do it, and the length of it, the performances, the way it was all constructed. There was so much in these reviews that were so negative about the film, and I wonder how much of that is you coming in wanting to, and then getting offended or mad that they're pissing away a good story or a good possibility for a film, wanting that film to fight against the larger blockbuster films, which seem to be consuming the theater. So I've noticed this recently over the last year, as I've read these reviews, some of them have used their vitriol for those smaller, more independent films to destroy them. And I wonder about where that psychology comes from.
This isn't a small film, and also going in with expectations is what makes somebody's reaction personal, which is why we have so many critics out there that are all worth reading and watching, because a movie is a personal experience for anyone. But thinking about one of the comments you just made, yes, maybe I did go into the movie with light expectations because I was really enjoying the book, and I think that this could have made a great cinematic experience, and it's unfortunate that it didn't. But the other upsetting thing to me is that I could see so many individuals delivering like peak work. I thought Oaks Fagley and Sarah Paulson were excellent in this movie, and we're talking about a movie shot by Roger Deakins with one stellar looking frame after the next, and it just doesn't spark that emotion. So I think the big difference is maybe not going overboard with ripping a movie to shreds and not justifying your criticisms, rather than, just being plain old mean for no reason and not backing it up.
I think, John, you bring up a very, very, very good point. The early buzz on the film was not great, and then the reviews were also not great, and I feel like people just went in wanting to hate it, looking for things that they were going to dislike about it, and there is stuff to dislike, but I think it just went over the top. I think it was unfairly trashed. I mean, it was not a great movie, but it's not terrible. It's not like it's the worst movie I've ever seen.
Well, and people aren't going to go spend their money on films like these kinds of films. And yeah, maybe it's a big studio film, but it has a smaller independent feel to it.
It's a $40 million production budget.
But it can still look like a small independent film. And those are those things that you look at and you're like, okay, do I want to go spend my money on a film like this? And if the reviews are bad, no. You know why? Because I don't want to be stuck in a theater for 2.5 hours with a terrible movie. So they're not going to go. People don't have the time anymore. People are working multiple jobs. The ticket prices are too high. They don't have the time to take a chance on things like this anymore like they used to, unless the reviews are strong. I look at Goldfinch and I compare it to Booksmart, and I want, these are two interesting things to explore, because Booksmart, great reviews, great critics. Was it just the rollout? Here's all these terrible reviews, way more expensive film, as you said, $40 million, but yet people totally didn't go patronize this thing at all. So it's wondering.
Reviews can definitely sway a public, I think, when it comes to seeing a movie or not, but also it cannot happen. It's like every single time we talk about box office, there's not just one factor that you could say, this is why the movie succeeded or failed. There's always a million different things, which is part of the reason why I love this topic so much.
The other thing is about Hustlers. When I did go to the premiere in Toronto on Saturday night, 9:30, and the energy in the room was off the hook. The energy, the excitement, it's infectious. If you're sitting in a room and everyone is having a great time, whooping and howling and really living it up, that really gets under you, that gets to you, and it does sort of sway you in that direction. Now, the movie's great anyway, but I know that because of where I saw it in the energy in the room, I remember more because of the circumstance. Yeah,
the breakdown on Box Office Mojo was interesting too, because it was a majority female audience that was pushing this thing, and the age range of the majority female audience was of a lower age, and combined with the older. So that's a positive, because I think Hollywood Reporter was talking about these female-led films this year that didn't come out and make money, and they were wondering if they're with The Kitchen and with Booksmart and a couple other films, was the public's taste still there? And this proves it is, if the movie is good enough and grabs the interest. And it definitely grabbed the interest of the younger social media using generation that want, because there were so many memes and so many Yes Queen and all that stuff was on there that people were looking forward to seeing it. And I think J-Lo being part of that stuff on Fox, the talent show, all that stuff, staying in the public's eye, in the younger public's eye, helps to boost her profile on the film.
Good point about The Kitchen. Why did The Kitchen bomb? I mean, that's not a good movie.
It's not a good movie.
The Kitchen stunk. Well, The Kitchen was bad, but I mean, The Kitchen also was another bomb for Warner Brothers. I mean, other than It Chapter 2, they've been having a rough go.
Luckily, they have Joker right around the corner, and I think there's already tons of early projections out there that are expecting big numbers for that one. I can't wait to cover that more when we talk box office. But now we got to move on to a special news segment that we're doing. So again, when we launched this new edition of Movie Talk, one of the things that we wanted to do is give you you segments that you don't usually get on the show. And the one that we're going to highlight today is a movie you might have missed. So the movie Manos debuted this weekend, and I know Rocha had seen it in advance, but it was a movie that wasn't really on my radar, and I don't know if it's the same for you, Mantz, but the two of us watched it this weekend because we wanted to talk about it here. To give you a little background on this, I'm going to read the official synopsis. In a remote mountaintop setting somewhere in Latin America, a rebel group of teenage commandos perform military training exercises while watching over a prisoner for a shadowy force known only as the Organization. After an ambush drives the squadron into the jungle, fracturing their intricate bond, the mission begins to collapse. So there's a reason we're highlighting this movie on this show today, to urge you all to see it. I thought this one was phenomenal. What did you guys think?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, this is South America. This is my people. This spoke to me on so many levels, which is why I worked so hard to get Julianne Nicholson to come on the Deep Cut, which is an episode coming up soon. She spoke about the movie for a good 20 to 25 minutes in her experience working with Alejandro Landis. They actually shot this in Colombia in the conditions that you see. They were in those jungles, in areas of the jungle that hadn't been explored yet, hadn't been shot in. And it's incredible. And also a fantastic story that aligns itself with Beasts of No Nation. I know people compare it to Lord of the Flies, and there are certainly a lot of influences of Lord of the Flies in the movie, along with the pig's head. It's all there. But there's also this idea of the child warriors. And this civil war has been going on in Colombia for 60 years. And the director, Alejandro Landis, wanted to highlight the story of the young fighters who get involved in the situation, and then how the power dynamics change and how they can get exposed to certain things and what might happen to them as this goes along. And of course, Julianne Nicholson as the American engineer hostage adds another element to this. And she's incredible in the movie. All of these kids, just about all these kids, except for the actor from Hannah Montana, are new actors. They found in Colombia. They cast out of small towns. So all of it is fantastic. And the film grips you, holds you, and doesn't let you go until the final moment. And you will come out changed, or at least way more interested to explore this story because of the quality of this movie.
Yeah, I agree. I after going to 2 back-to-back film festivals, Telluride and then straight into Toronto, saw a whole lot of movies. I was a little movied out. So thank you for the heads up on having me see this movie, and thank you for that great review that I absolutely, completely agree with. It is so atmospheric and immersive and intense and riveting and mesmerizing. The performances are fantastic. Kudos to Julianne Nicholson for a searing physical and emotional performance. It is definitely, I definitely thought about Lord of the Flies, and then because of a couple other scenes in the film, I also thought about Apocalypse Now, which is a movie I know you are a big fan of, and I know you are too. But this is the kind of film where using a platform like Collider to appeal to sort of get the word out to our viewers and our fans to seek this movie out and see it, because it is absolutely worthy. It's one of the best movies of the year. So thanks for the tip. Agree with your review.
I will second just about everything you guys said. I think the atmosphere was one of the things that struck me most. Also, the way that it's shot really does give you that boots on the ground feeling, like you're right in the thick of it with them. And it kind of encourages you to lean in a little. It's not necessarily a movie with a, get from point A to point B, and then we'll wrap it up in the end. You get to live with these characters for a little while, and you don't have a clear sense of who they are and where they stand in the group until you sit with them a little bit. And that's the kind of feeling that makes you, lean in and look at the expressions on their faces. Someone's behaving one way and something else is happening over here. And just to see the hierarchy change throughout the movie too, and how certain individuals in the group choose to assert their power, it's a very atmospheric and engaging, I guess almost character study, where I walked away feeling like I got to know every single individual in Manos, and also Julianne Nicholson. She is something else in that movie. It's just sometimes I sit there and I watch performances like that and I'm like, how do you do that to yourself? You just gave everything you have to a really physically exhausting role, and I just applaud you, because the results across the board in this one, please seek this one out.
Yeah, also the score from Micah Levy is fantastic. She did Jackie and Under the Skin, so that atmospheric thing.
And it's like that familiar theme that keeps kicking back in, that really, it gets under your skin, but in a good way.
Yeah.
If you want to catch Monos for yourself, it's in select theaters now. It first came out September 13th. It's a Neon movie. Neon is doing some really great work this year, so big applause to them as well, but see if it's playing in a theater near you. All right. Before we move on to our last panel segment of the show, we've got some teases for you. Here's what you've got coming your way on Collider Video. Is there an ad? I don't think so. There's Sports Time. Sports Time's happening.
Yeah,
Rocha,
hey.
what's happening on Sports Time?
Yeah, we're going live today at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Sports Time. That's Scott Mantz. He won't be on it, but I will be hosting it. Josh McCouga is on it, and so is Jay Washington. Talk about all the NFL stuff, all the big news. We just found out Big Ben Roethlisberger, he is out for the season. Drew Brees out for 6 weeks. Darnold out for 7 weeks. So much to talk about, plus college football and a little FIBA World Cup action for basketball as well.
Nice. And on top of that, we're also going to give you the heads up that Collider Heroes is coming your way later this week, so keep an eye out. Do not miss the new episode. All right. Topic number 2 today. We are talking a little Toronto International Film Festival 2019, specifically this whole deal about the People's Choice Award, because like I said earlier, that is a big deal. 9 of the last 10 winners went on to get Academy Award nominations for Best Picture, which is a huge, huge deal. And the fact that Jojo Rabbit won this award this year, it really could mean something. And I'm curious, especially having seen it, Scott, did you expect Jojo to be a top contender for this award, or did you expect it to go to something else?
I actually did expect it to be a top contender. Being at the premiere for that film, the energy in the room, I felt like people really got it. And it's also a different movie. It's unlike any other film that has been at any of the film festivals, Venice, Telluride, and then Toronto. And Taika Waititi, just is revered as a visionary with his body of work. And here's a film that it's really kind of hard to define, hard to describe, hard to peg into like one particular like plot point or description. But I sort of liken it as a cross between like a Wes Anderson movie and Life is Beautiful.
I think I compared a little bit of it to Moonrise Kingdoms, even just like from a plot point, but also like a visual perspective at the very beginning of the movie.
But this is a film that it's a satire. It is a Holocaust satire. Okay, and what people be like, how do you do that? But it actually is what it is. It's very, very funny. The script is great. I laughed out loud many, many times. But the brilliance of the film here is that when it shifts gears, it shifts tones, it does so seamlessly, and it is serious when it needs to be. And the young actors in this movie, Roman Griffin Davis, stand out. Thomasin McKenzie, who was terrific in Leave No Trace with Ben Foster, terrific performance as well. But really, it is about the look of the film, the style of it, just the screenplay is superb, the pace of it, and of course, it is from Fox Searchlight. So you talk about 9 out of the last 10 People's Choice Award winners get at least nominated for a Best Picture. And some of the movies that actually won the People's Choice that won, you have 12 Years a Slave, Fox Searchlight, Slumdog Millionaire, Fox Searchlight, also The King's Speech, and for better or worse, the most recent Best Picture winner, which is Green Book. So start your comments below, because I know you all got a lot to say about Green Book winning Best Picture. I saw a lot of those comments when I tweeted out about it. But regardless, I think that I was very pleased that it went. I thought it might have gone to something more crowd pleasing, like maybe Ford Ferrari or something like that.
Yeah.
But I was very, very happy that it went to Jojo Rabbit.
Will definitely second you on that. This was my favorite movie at TIFF 2019, and one of the big reasons, I guess, why I thought it might not have won this honor, and also why, even after seeing it and loving it as much as I did, I kind of bumped it down on my predictions list for Best Picture, is just because of the subject matter, which I can understand great sensitivity to that and concern about how he expresses his points regarding that. But the fact that this is so successfully told from the young star's perspective, it's something that we've never really experienced as far as the Holocaust and Hitler being represented on the big screen before. And I don't know. It really just kind of like rocked me to my core to be able to see like in such a terrible, terrible thing, just like a little silver lining, a little beauty, a little of just people coming together and helping each other and supporting each other and celebrating the good in life.
Yep.
I walked out of this movie feeling freaking inspired, and I love that sensation.
There is a little bit of, some of the reactions coming out of Toronto were that with the rise around the world of anti-Semitism, like it's really the worst it's been in a very, very long time. And here's a film that like makes fun of the Holocaust, and makes fun of it, but it's a satire of the Holocaust. And I think that if you're approaching the subject matter from this point of view, and it keeps people aware of really that happened, but it makes it part of the conversation. I think that's a good thing.
I think that's the thing that concerns, because I haven't seen it. You guys have seen it, so I'm very envious, and I want to see it. I want to make up my own mind about it. But looking at it from the outside, this subject matter that it tackles, usually if it's tackled in a serious way, it wins the short film documentary, it wins this, or it comes in contention for Best Picture. Those kinds of films that deal with Nazism and go back to World War II and talk about that, they're revered by the Academy for many reasons. But you look at this film and you go, okay, this is kind of like a little bit connected, like the producers making fun of this idea of springtime for Hitler, all that goes on. But this is really on the nose satire about this situation. And I've seen people online and people of note commenting, this is not something to be made fun of. This is not a material to try to find a funny way into. So we'll see if that becomes an issue for people to go see this movie. You can trumpet it to the heavens. Look, Scott Pilgrim, Edgar Wright coming off Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead. People, this is going to be great coming out of Comic-Con. People love it. It sank. People didn't connect to the material as strongly. I wonder how this is going to go. Taika Waititi does have a name, but it's also Thor helps that name, the MCU. His smaller stuff hasn't really blown up at the box office. It's done well. So we'll see. We'll see. I think this is a good test of Taika Waititi's drawing power as a director. You have Scarlet, but it's a story about Hitler and the Nazis and about this kid's relationship to that, and in a satirical way. So I'm curious to see what it does in the box office. I think it'll show us a lot.
In terms of like the chances now for Jojo Rabbit at the Oscars.
Yeah.
I think if you look just in the last 25, 30 years about movies that have won Oscars in various forms, obviously Schindler's List, then you have Life is Beautiful, then you have The Pianist, the Roman Polanski, Adrian Brody movie. Right. This is obviously a subject matter that a lot of Academy voters have always kept close to their awareness. And even with the doubling of the Academy and with especially now with the diversity in the Academy ranks and the gender balance in the Academy ranks, I think that this movie is definitely going to be a big play during award season for picture, for director, and for screenplay, for sure.
Can I ask you too? Sorry, Perri.
No, keep going.
I just want to ask you too. Were you both surprised that Joker didn't take this thing and Jojo did, coming off the Golden Lion?
I didn't expect Joker to take it.
Okay,
even
coming
though
off the Golden Lion win. That's what I'm saying.
Even though it took Venice after seeing the movie, I did not expect Joker to take the People's Choice for Toronto.
Yeah, neither did I. I think when I was trying to predict what could win this award, my mind went to crowd pleaser or movies that I saw at premieres that had the most electric response. So I had narrowed it down to like maybe this, Knives Out, Ford v Ferrari, Waves. Waves got a huge, that's another A24 movie. Keep an eye out for it. It is one of the best of the festival.
Yep, great.
The response to that movie was something else. So I thought those were all going to be in the mix there. But just briefly, what do you guys now think of Marriage Story and Parasite as the second and third runner-up for this honor? Do you think that they're going to get into the Best Picture nomination as well?
For sure. I think both of those movies, including Parasite. I think Parasite is a film that will get nominated for foreign film and for Best Picture.
I'm watching that one for director as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Marriage Story is, as long as Academy voters can get out of the way that it's a Netflix movie, because I think that hurt Roma for Best Picture in a lot of ways last year. That it's a Netflix movie, but Marriage Story is the Kramer versus Kramer of the 21st century. It's a fantastic movie. We'll get into that elsewhere. But both of those movies, Parasite and Marriage Story, any one of those films, any one of those three movies would have been worthy to win the People's Choice for Toronto.
And I think there have been two runner-ups recently that have won Best Picture. So that's to the audience award. So that's certainly in the realm of possibility. I don't know if Parasite necessarily gets in there for Best Picture. It'll probably Best foreign language certainly, but best picture. It's got a little bit of a hill to climb to get there, I think, for people's awareness of it. But it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. I just think it's a harder road. As for Marriage Ceremony, we'll see.
Marriage Story.
Marriage Story. All the reviews I've seen have been so positive that it's a film that was not on my radar and is now on my radar to watch because of the fantastic reviews rather. So I'm curious to see if those two get nominations.
One more movie that did get nominated. But another movie that did win the People's Choice Award and actually did win Best Picture for about 90 seconds. La La Land.
Of course. We knew we weren't getting away from that without a La La Land reference.
Keeping that thing going.
Jesus.
As much as I love that movie, I have such respect for your passion for that movie, more so than anything.
It rocked my world.
All right, guys, this new edition of Movie Talk will still incorporate live chat questions and comments. And specifically, we need to talk right now. Actually, this one comes from good old Dorian. Thank you for alerting me to this. We'll talk about it on tomorrow's show, but there's a story on Deadline right now that says Warner Brothers Animation plans a Funko film based on collectible figures. We're going to dig into that tomorrow. That sounds absolutely fascinating. Right now, we're going to take a question from Langley M. Neely, who's asking, what is a film that was successful, that you love, that you were amazed it didn't get a sequel? For me, it's A Simple Favor.
Simple Favor. Oh, that was a terrific movie.
It was.
Yeah, I just watched that last night on Amazon Prime.
Funny.
I was like looking for it, and that came out last year, and I thought Anna Kendrick was fantastic in the movie,
and Blake
Lively should have been nominated for that movie. Directed by Paul Feig, who did Bridesmaids and the Ghostbusters.
What's the release date? I feel like you're building to it.
It was September of 2018.
Okay.
I know it was September. I
think
don't
you're
know the
accurate
day. Forgive me for not knowing the day, Perry. But yeah, between La La Land movie release dates, Mantz is very well represented on this episode of Movie Talk. I got to think about that for a second. Okay. What about you, John?
I would say for me, and I tweeted about it over the weekend actually randomly, The Foreigner, the Jackie Chan movie. That was a fantastic film. He did incredible dramatic work under the hands of Martin Campbell as the director of the film. I thought he was so good, and I tweeted, how can we get 3 Olympus Has Fallen sequels, all these other sequels for these films, and we can't get, or Terminator sequels that don't work, and we can't get a sequel to The Foreigner, which is such a great action film that makes real great use of Jackie Chan's acting abilities, dramatic acting ability. The fights are just an extension of what he's already doing as an actor versus the fights being the highlight in his other films. This is a quiet film that could be told, he could be an Avenger going down the road as, not an Avenger for the superhero stuff, but an Avenger against people who are doing terrorist bombings and killing innocent people. This is an interesting thing to explore. Another one, Running Scared from 1989, I think. Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal.
I think it was 88.
88, fine, 88. Whatever. I defer to you, release dates, Paul.
Did you think of something, man?
Yeah, Titanic. Movie made $2.2 billion worldwide. Come on, imagine the title, Titanic 2. Back in action.
Yeah, probably not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
I think this is just because it was mentioned earlier in the show and it's like fresh on my mind right now. But I wouldn't mind a Booksmart sequel. And with that in mind, a Superbad sequel. I mean, it was such a big deal that the two of them were so close and then had to part ways to like pursue their path at college and beyond. So I wouldn't mind reuniting with those characters and seeing where they wound up. So those are my choices. All right. We have one more really important question before we say goodbye. Rocha, you better be ready for this one.
Okay.
Are you ready?
All
right. J. Scott for real is asking, how do you all take your bread in the morning? Toast, bagel, or baguette?
You know what? When I was hosting Movie Talk for a few days, this bread thing consumed my life because I thought it was ridiculous. I get it. Perry slacked me. Bread is life, Rocha. Get on board. So I had to get on board. It depends on what I'm in the mood for in the morning. Usually I'll get a bagel. Sometimes I'll get a nice sprouted grain flat over there at Panera. Or sometimes I'll just pull me out a nice...
Oh my, are you not going to Noah's?
I know. I've stopped going to Noah's.
Oh, okay.
And I want to lose weight, so the less bagels I eat in the morning, the better for me overall. So, but I went to a farmer's market this weekend, and there are people who make like bread fresh out of their stone ovens and bring to sell. $10 this loaf of a rye bread, which I love, and it weighed as heavy as a concrete, and when you ate it, soft as cotton. So good.
All right, what's your bread of choice, Mantz?
Bagel. Oh, come on, I'm Jewish. What do you expect?
Well,
I mean, what else would I say? Well, actually, I did have.
I have a follow-up question for you then. So, being in LA,
Uh-huh.
needing a good bagel, where do you go? Because I have not
Well,
found
there's
anything.
this place at the farmer's market in 3rd and Fairfax that
Okay.
actually has really good bagels. But I
right.
did not go there this morning because I was driving on my way in, stopped off at Starbucks, got my triple grande, not fat latte, and my toasted bagel with butter, and I'm good to go. Bagels, baby, come on!
right.
But no, LA is the worst place for bagels.
It really is. Like, I
Yeah.
thought that was just like a myth, but all of a sudden the pizza and
It's
bagel
the
problem.
pizza and bagel problem, and also
it's a real thing.
also the cheesesteak problem.
Cheesesteak,
Born
okay.
and raised in Philadelphia.
Oh, fair.
I've been in LA for 28 years and I have yet to find a good place for Philly cheesesteaks in LA. So if you're watching right now, hit me up on Twitter at MovieManz. Help a brother out. Tell me where to go for a good Philly cheesesteak in Southern California. Thank you.
One of my new go-tos before I do my long runs now is a bagel with a little bit of peanut butter on it.
Oh,
and that
that's good. Protein.
gets me going.
Get going.
And then I have my pack of energy jelly beans at around 9-10 miles.
Very good.
It's a great mix. All right. That's it for this very first edition of 9 a.m. Movie Talk with this new format. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Please hit the comment section below and share your thoughts on this new episode, special segments you might want to see. We love hearing what you guys think. As always, I must thank my panelists, Mantz, Rocha. Thank you for being the guinea pigs today. A huge thanks to Cody and Thad in the booth for working super hard on this format and the graphics. Dorian for always having my back in the live chat. To everybody out there, do not leave this video without liking and sharing it. And guess what? We're talking about that Jurassic World short film tomorrow on Movie Talk. So I'll see you then, 9 a.m. PT.